Okay, so let's talk about two ancient kings. They both run into the exact same divine truth. But here's the crazy part. One gets his throne back, while the other, well, he's gone for good. Their stories are this incredible study in power, pride, and what happens when you ignore the writing on the wall. So what on earth made the difference?
All right, let's get right to it. Here's the matchup. On one side, you've got King Nebuchadnezzar. He gets a warning in a dream, gets totally humbled, but in the end, he's restored. Then, on the other side, there's his successor, Belshazzar. His warning wasn't some mysterious dream, it was like recent history. But he ignores it, gets weighed on this cosmic scale, and boom, he's removed. Permanently. Two kings, one truth, two completely different outcomes.
So what was this big truth they both had to face? It's this. Basically, the idea that some heavenly power, not your army, not your wealth, is the one really calling the shots and deciding who gets to rule. That's the central idea we're going to see play out.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. I mean, both kings knew this truth. One experienced it firsthand, the other grew up hearing the story. But here's the thing, knowing something and actually doing something about it are worlds apart. So let's dig in and see how their responses totally sealed their fates.
First up, Nebuchadnezzar. Now, his story is way more than just a king going a little crazy. It's really this incredible example of mercy coming before judgment. A chance to get things right before it's too late. So here's how it all goes down. First, he has this terrifying dream about a giant tree, which, spoiler alert, represents him getting chopped down. Then Daniel, who's the only one with the guts to tell the king the truth, explains that it means judgment is coming. But, and this is so important, Daniel also tells him how to avoid it. The king, of course, doesn't listen, gets humbled exactly like the dream said he would, and then finally, after he learns his lesson, his mind and his kingdom are given right back to him. And this is what's so wild about the whole thing. The warning came with an out. I mean, Daniel literally tells the king, hey, you can stop this from happening if you start doing what's right and show some mercy to the poor. So this wasn't fate sealed in stone. God wasn't just announcing doom and gloom. He was basically handing him the keys to get off that collision course. And get this, God gave him an entire year. 12 full months passed between Daniel's warning and when the judgment actually hit. Now, you might think that's just patience, and it is, but there's a real danger there, isn't there? When you get away with something for a long time, you start to think maybe you're not going to get caught at all. Nebuchadnezzar had a whole year to turn things around, and he just didn't. And this right here is the tipping point. He's standing on the roof of his palace, looking out over everything, and he says this. It is the ultimate look what I did speech. He's not really denying God exists, he's just leaving him out of the picture entirely. It's all I, myself, my power, my majesty. You hear it, right? And the timing is just chilling. The text says the judgment didn't come a day later or even an hour later. The second those prideful words left his mouth, the hammer fell. The grace period was officially over. But this is what makes his story so powerful. After everything he goes through, after being humbled, his sanity returns. And what does he do? He makes this huge public statement. He finally gets it. Yeah, he responded late, but the point is, he did respond. He learned what humility was all about and ended up praising the very one who humbled him. Okay, so now let's switch gears and look at Belshazzar, because his story is a completely different animal. This is a cautionary tale not about someone who didn't know the truth, but about someone who knew it and just defiantly thumbed his nose at it. And this is the charge that Daniel lays at his feet. It's absolutely devastating. The problem wasn't a lack of information. Oh no, Belshazzar knew the entire story about Nebuchadnezzar. He knew about the pride, the fall, the restoration. His failure was a choice, a deliberate choice not to humble his own heart, even though he knew better. And we're not talking about one bad day here. Belshazzar was in charge for something like 14 years. That's a decade and a half of knowing what happens when a king tries to steal God's glory. 14 years of having a front row seat to his predecessor's mistake. So when judgment comes for him, it's not some surprise attack. It's the bill coming due after a long time of ignoring the warnings. This final act, it's just a whole new level of arrogance. He throws this huge party, and what does he do? He takes the sacred vessels from God's temple in Jerusalem, the ones Nebuchadnezzar had plundered, and uses them like common party cups. He's literally making a toast to his own gods of gold and silver, using God's holy things to do it. It's this act of direct defiance that brings the party to a screeching halt. Suddenly, this hand just appears out of nowhere and starts writing on the wall. Freaky, right? They call in Daniel, and he lays out the verdict, word by word. First, mene. It means, your days are numbered. Your time is up. The lease on your kingdom has just expired. Next up, tekel. This one's personal. You yourself have been put on the scales of heaven, and you don't measure up. You've been found deficient. Ouch. And finally, Paris. This is the consequence. Your kingdom is toast. It's being broken apart and handed over to a new ownership, the Medes and Persians. And here's the kicker. Their army was literally outside the city gates as he spoke. And you see the difference, right? Unlike Nebuchadnezzar, there's no year of grace here. No last-minute call to repent. No second chances. The judgment was instant and absolute. That very same night, Belshazzar's story and the Babylonian Empire came to a bloody end. Okay, so let's zoom out and put these two stories side by side. You have two kings. They both face the exact same undeniable truth about who's really in charge. So why in the world did they end up with such drastically different fates? Well, it all boils down to how they responded. Let's just look at the tail of the tape here. Nebuchadnezzar? He was warned in advance by a dream. Belshazzar, he was warned by cold, hard history. Nebuchadnezzar was given time to repent. Belshazzar was given years of opportunity. And the result? One is humbled and brought back. The other is weighed and thrown out. But the real difference, the thing that changes everything, is that bottom line. Nebuchadnezzar, even though he was late to the party, eventually responded. Belshazzar never did. So here's the main takeaway, the one big idea. The difference wasn't the revelation they got. One got a dream, the other got a history lesson. The thing that made all the difference, the thing that sealed their destinies, was their response to the truth they had. And that's what makes this more than just an old story, right? Because the lesson here is that in some way, shape, or form, the handwriting is always on the wall for all of us. So really, the question we should be asking ourselves isn't, will God speak, or will the truth be made known? Because it will be. Whether it's through history or our own conscience or the world around us, the message always gets through. The real question is something much closer to home. The real question is, will we respond while there is still time? Will we choose to humble ourselves and act on the truth we already know while we still have the chance? Because as these two kings prove, in the end, our response is everything.